Unit 7 review, we have some objectives here. There are 5 for this test. It's a very short unit, so we have flown through it. There are only 7 lessons. The first objective we're going to look at on the next slide, and then we'll continue in that pattern doing one objective per slide through this video. So let's go to the first objective. It tells us to use the order of operations to simplify and evaluate expressions with and without grouping symbols. So the order of operations we know as this: parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, or subtract. So that's PEMDAS. We think of it as that. So for this first expression, 16 plus 4 divided by 4, if we are realizing we have division and addition, well, which comes first, the D or the A? Well, the D comes first. Division, so we have to do the division. 4 divided by 2 first. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now we bring down the 16 in the addition. And there's our answer. 16 plus 2 is 18. Now that example is the simplest order of operations problem we could have because there's only 2 operations. Now let's look at another one. The most operations we'll have in an expression in 5th grade will be 3. 54 divided by 9 plus 4 times 9. Now this is where it can get tricky, and a lot of adults will confuse this too. When you multiply and divide, you do those at the same time from the left and right. You start at the left. So I have multiplication and I have division. And then there's addition in the center. So what we have to do is we have to kind of think of this in isolation. I know the parentheses aren't there, but we have to do those things separately and then add what we get as those answers. So 54 divided by 9 is 6 plus 36. 4 times 9. We did 4 times 9 to get 36. So now we can add and we get 42. So multiplying and dividing you do together from left to right, and the same goes for adding and subtracting. You do those together from left to right. Students are very familiar with that, and they should feel comfortable with it, but practice these types of problems and they'll do just fine on the test. The second learning objective for this test is to write simple expressions from words and write words for simple expressions. So really what they're doing here is writing words for numbers and writing numbers for words. So in this example we're going to write words for this expression: 8 plus 7 times 9. So what I could say here is I could say, because of the order of operations, I know multiplication is going to come first, so I could say find the product of 7 and 9, then add 8. There's my answer. So the reason I knew I could say product is because when you multiply 2 factors, the factors of 9 and 7, the answer we refer to as the product. And then we add 8, so it would be 63 plus 8. And that would give us our simplified expression. Learning goal 3, we want to generate 2 numerical patterns given rules and generate ordered pairs. So the rule here on the top is add 8. So if we start at 8 and add 8, we go to 16. Then you add another 8, 24, 32. Now on the bottom we have add 4, 4, 8, 12, 16. Now some of the questions might say, what's the relationship to the corresponding pairs? Those are corresponding pairs, top and bottom. These are all corresponding pairs. So you may say the top number is the bottom number times 2. Or you may say the bottom number is the top number divided by 2. Okay? And you can see how that works. That's what we're looking for, that the students can understand the relationships between the corresponding numbers in the pattern. Also that they can identify this row as being the X, and this is being the Y. So if we wanted to write ordered pairs, we could for this. So I took this one, for example, and I wrote the 8 as my X in my ordered pair and my 4 as my Y. So we made the pattern, given a rule, and we generated an ordered pair. This one students are the most familiar with. They feel very confident in from our in-class assessments and my observations. Locate and plot points in quadrant 1 of the coordinate plane. So if we have 2, 1 as our coordinates, that means go over 2 and then go up 1. So if I go over 2 and up 1, my plot's going to be there. Okay? Now if the next pair said 3, 1, I go over 3 and up 1. Or let's say 3, 2. Over 3, up 2. Then I might connect those lines. Maybe over 4, up 3. Next. And we can kind of see our slope. Okay? All students need to do is be able to locate them. They may also be given something like this where it's actually plotted for them already, and then they have to say, what's the ordered pair for that? How do we get there? Well, you go over, if you start at the origin, 0, 0, you go over 1 and up 4. So the ordered pair would be 1, 4. Once again, students are very familiar with that. Really focus on the first two. Actually, the first three are the biggest ones. Once they get into the coordinate plane, it's pretty simple for them because we've been working on this with puzzles and different things in class. The last learning target. Solving real-world problems. What they're going to be doing with this is from a set of data. They're going to be explaining how they can use the pattern to find certain things. So let's say they're talking about the time of months and the cost in dollars. They may say in 1 month, how much did it cost for a phone plan, a cell phone plan? In 3 months, how much did it cost to pay for that cell phone plan? So they're looking at those type of patterns, and they'd probably be given a chart like this, and it would say maybe months cost, let's say 1 month it cost $20, and 2 months it cost $40, 3 months $60, 4 months $80. They would then have to graph that, and then they would have to talk about, well, maybe if I had this for a year, how much would it cost? So what would 12 months be? So they would have to follow this pattern and solve this as a real-world problem, because a lot of us have cell phones. We pay these bills, so that's why it's a real-world problem. So take your time, work with your child on some of these problems and questions, and they'll do great.